Everyone, I'm about to do an interview with author Sally Hepworth, and I'm going to be introducing her in just a second, but all the way from Australia, and it's 5 o'clock my time, and it's tomorrow morning her time, so it takes a little bit of figuring out, but I am so excited that she said yes. She has a brand new book coming out that this video will be airing on that day. It's called The Family Next Door, and I can't wait to talk to her about it. So everyone, here is Sally. Hi everyone, I am so excited to be speaking with author Sally Hepworth, and she is in Australia and I am in Pennsylvania, and we have a connection that sometimes I don't even get with people that are like right near me. So I am so blessed that this worked good today, and thank you so much, Sally.
Oh, thank you for having me. It is a great connection. It feels like you're in the next room.
It is crazy. I'm telling you, I don't get connections like this in the U.S. and people in my state, okay? I just interviewed someone that was like an hour away last week, and we could not get a connection. So I'm so happy that we've got this. It's like Skype world is working for us today. So
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yes, we're going to be talking about Sally's newest book that it will be out on the day that this airs, and it's called The Family Next Door, and she has a copy of it. She has her Australian copy she can show us, and look at that. I love it.
Isn't it gorgeous? I love it too.
Yeah, I love this book so much, and it reminded me of like, do you know who Ann Tyler is?
No.
Okay, she's old school. Like, I'm older than you, so she's old school. But I used to read her books when I was working, like before I, had children and everything. And her books did this kind of like build up, and you really don't know what's going to happen, especially back then, because all you had was the back of the book blur. Like, we can look on the internet now and see what people say, but back then you didn't have that. So you would just look on the back of the book and give you this little thing, and you didn't know what was happening. And then all of a sudden, these like, it's like these ordinary people and things start happening, and it just builds and builds and builds, and it reminded me of that so much. And she was really popular here like a long time ago, but anyway, that's what it reminded me of. I had because I got the NetGalley, I saw very little about it, and then as I'm reading it, I'm like, interesting, and I'm getting into these people's lives, and I'm like, wow. I mean, and then it builds, and we don't give spoilers, so we're not giving any spoilers. We don't talk spoilers, so we can talk about everything but what happens. So it's about this neighborhood of women, and I have to say, like, I lived in a very small town. Not that we were in a very close, but everybody knew each other. And so it kind of like, I was kind of reminiscing about that, because there was a lot of gossip going on, and, everybody knew everything you did. And I just, nowadays it's not so much like that, but I mean, some neighborhoods I'm sure still are like that. And I just had to crack up when they were talking about each other, and, it was I just thought you really got that dead on. And I loved Essie. I mean, I got so attached to her. Okay. And her story, and just, like how it goes with her. And like I said, we're going to be talking a little bit in circles, but I loved Barbara. And I didn't have that mom. That my mom always lived further away from me. And so I didn't have that mom that would be like, hey, can you come over and babysit? So I was kind of, in the beginning of the book, I'm like super jealous. Yeah, I know. I'm like super jealous of Essie. I'm like, I wanted a mom that I could be like, hey, I want to go out and have coffee. Can you come babysit?
Yeah, I know. Wouldn't we all love that mom?
Yeah. Do you have that situation?
Sort of. I didn't at first. My mum was still working, but she's retired now, so I have a Barbara. Although I don't think she has the same past as Barbara. That's all I'm going to say.
That's a good thing, right? Because you talk about Melbourne, and you're in Melbourne now, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So because I am so not familiar with Australia, I actually looked on a map today, because you were talking about, it was weird to me because I thought I knew exactly where it was. But then when you were talking about the weather and that Sydney was warmer, and I was like, wait a second, where is, and then when I looked on the map, I'm like, that's right, because South in Australia is colder. Like, it's not like here, when, you know, so I was like, and you guys are having summer, per se.
Yeah.
You know,
it's summer now, but it's a strange sort of day. But in the book, it is a big. Melbourne does get hot, but even though it's the most southerly point, but in the book they're going through a big heat wave, which is even unusual for Melbourne. So
yeah, now I understand a little bit because of you talking about the weather in the book. I was like, oh, okay, that's why it's so. But I didn't realize that Melbourne is right on the ocean. Like, I didn't even realize, like, how, so you're right, I mean, the beaches are right there.
The beach is at the end of my street, yeah. Yeah, I can see it if I walk outside my house.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. So, like, okay, so how warm does it get in the summer?
Well, it can be, like in the book, it can be up to, 45. We do it in Celsius, so I'm not very good at Fahrenheit, but
I'm not good in Celsius.
I have to do it, but I can look it up. But it gets hot. It gets really, really hot.
Okay. So Sydney gets that much hotter. So what I didn't realize is that Sydney gets that much hotter, which I did not, like, it was a little bit of a geography lesson for me today.
The further north you go, the hotter it gets, generally speaking. Yeah.
Right. I always wanted, were you ever in the US?
I've been to the US on holidays. I've never lived there, unfortunately. It's something that I've always wanted to do and it hasn't happened. I've lived in Canada and other parts of the world, but, never say never.
Where did you visit in the US?
Oh, I've been all over. I've been to California, I've been to New York and to Florida and to, where else have I been? Texas.
Yeah, you hit all the good places, so that's good.
And I'm coming back in 2 weeks. I'm coming to do a little US visit, so for the release of the book, which will be gorgeous. I'm going to LA, New York, Rhode Island, North Carolina.
Awesome.
And I think that's it. But so that's going to be great. I love the US.
Yeah, and every time I think about, I don't travel outside of I've been to Canada. That's my extent of traveling. But every time I think about, like, oh, I'd love to go to Australia, and then I'm like, how far is that? Because I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm right below New York, and I'm like, that is a long flight for me.
It is a long flight. It's definitely a long flight. But if you don't have children with you, that's my new gauge. If I can fly somewhere without children, it feels like a holiday. I can just take a sleeping pill or watch movies, have a glass of wine. It's like paradise. I'd probably go on a flight and then just turn around and fly back just for the me time.
Wow, that's great. I do remember those days. You just do just about anything to be alone, even if it's all the way up in the air, just flying around.
While someone serves me food, that just sounds like paradise.
Right, someone serving you drinks and food, right?
Mum's holiday.
You are writing, it is so inspiring because you're a mom and you have 3 children and you're writing about a book a year. Okay.
Yes.
That is crazy. That is a crazy schedule because I know what the process is like just from talking to authors all the time. And, that's a pretty, even for somebody who's not a mom, like, that is a heavy schedule. How do you do that?
Well, it's become a lot easier this year because I now write 4 days a week and they're full days, 8 till 6. In the past, it's been more of a juggle. Certainly when I was writing the first book and the second book and sort of half and half with the third book, I was sneaking it into nap times and evenings and, wherever I could fit it in really. But luckily, I have had some success with my books, and so this year, and last year, I also had a little newborn baby at home. So last year was a bit of a difficult one too.
Yes.
But this year, I have got help. I've got someone with my baby 4 days a week, and my older kids are both at school now, in prep and in grade 3. So. I have a bit of time and now it's my job. So I think that the juggle is just like any other working mum. I still try and get all my work done as fast as I can so I can get home and be with the kids.
Yes.
But I have that dedicated time and the juggle is really balanced between my husband and I. So we do the best we can, and I'm doing what I love, so I'm very lucky that I get to do that 4 days a week.
Yeah, and I remember the transition when they were newborns saying, oh, well, I can't wait till they're not newborns, but then that just means they're up more. So then I'd be like, when I would be trying to do stuff, I'd be like, oh, I forget they're awake more now, or they're running around, like, I can't wait for them to walk, and then they're walking, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't do anything. So.
That's exactly where I'm at. Clementine has just taken her first steps, and it's so exciting, and she's so proud of herself. But I'm already starting to look at all the things I'm going to have to move up higher, onto tall shelves. So
yeah,
never.
I love that name. That is such a pretty name, Clementine. That is so beautiful.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you. I love it.
You are getting, I went on Goodreads where people have already reviewed this book, and you are getting such great reviews for this book. You must, before it's even come out, and the people that have already gotten to read it. And the one I loved, because I was kind of thinking the same way, and it's like, where has Sally been all my life? And I was like, I was thinking the same thing. Where has she been? Why is this the first book I've read of hers? I can't believe it, because it is so good. I'm going to go back. I'm going to read your other books, when I get my free time, and I get to just read whatever I want, because this book was so good. I'm like, I can't wait to read your other books.
Thank you. That's such lovely feedback. And I've heard that a bit, that people have gone back and read my backlist after reading one of my books, but particularly this one. So
yes.
That's all I want. I just want to be connecting with readers and for them to enjoy my stories. That's what it's all about for me.
Right. And I think that's what kind of happens, which is awesome for you guys, because it's like you get a couple of books out and then people are like, oh, I want to read her earlier stuff. I think that's the beauty of it, that you want to read the same, the other stuff that they have. And like I said, you've been coming out with a book a year. So those books are there. It's crazy. When I saw your schedule, I was like, oh my God, most moms I talk to, they're like, I do a book every 2 years. And so
the stories keep coming, and I just love writing them. So it's a schedule that works for me for now.
Right.
But
right.
We can discuss it again next year, and we'll see how it's going.
Right. And that's another thing. It's like, so these stories, this story is amazing. So it's like, they have this new genre, and I guess I didn't even look to see if they put it in this, but it's kind of like domestic suspense is what the new, Amazon always has these sub, genres. And I wanted to see, and I didn't get to see if they listed it, but to me, it definitely fits in that category, because I do read a lot of those books, because I don't know, there's this difference between a thriller and suspense novel that involves family issues, and this one definitely involves family issues, so I'm sure that it's going to go under, but it seems like it's a new genre for me. I don't know. I think they like to do that. They like to just keep categorizing them down to get specific, They
do, and I don't give a lot of thought into the genre. It's something I think that is for booksellers and for readers. It helps them to classify where the book's going to go on the shelf, and what kind of books they like, and so what they're going to look for. But for me, I've heard domestic suspense is the new thing, so that's wonderful for me if that's where my book's going to be shelved.
Yes.
I just try and focus on the story, and for me, it's always been about relationships and family and secrets, and it's the same with The Family Next Door. So I don't really mind where it's shelved or what it's called.
Well, I want to talk about the beginning, because we can talk about the beginning, because that's not any kind of spoiler, really.
Yes.
But I love that the first 3 paragraphs that are in italics. Okay, they talk about, the first line is which I love this line. The funny thing is, I've spent my whole life wanting you. Okay, so you read that whole thing and you don't know. Okay, you don't know who it is. You don't know who's saying it, and really you don't know until the end. So that's what I love. I love that. I love that I can go to the end and then I go back to the beginning, and then I
do that?
I always do that. Always do that, because I will like a beginning, but after the end I go back and I'm, to remember, because I'll write it down, like great beginning or something. And then when I'm at the end, I'm like, oh, what was the first line again? And then I'm like, oh my God, that was so good. That was so when you get a line like that, did you know that's how you wanted to start it off?
No, that whole section that was in italics, that came later. Once I had written the story, I didn't know the exact direction that it was going to go. I had an idea, a high-level idea of what I thought was going to happen. But the whole story of what actually happened, without giving away any spoilers, didn't come to me until I had actually written that scene and I found out what happened, 3/4 of the way through. And it was during the revision process that I ended up slicing it up and putting those little excerpts throughout the book. So no, it didn't. That wasn't the first line I wrote, but once I did pop it in that spot, I thought, yeah, that's it. That's a good place to start it. So,
and now, like, I just love that line even more, because as a mom, like, that kind of signifies. I think, like, I've always thought about having babies as young as I can remember, and with especially with my first one, it's like, oh my God, that was so, like, I've been waiting all my life for you,
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't know, you have nothing to relate it to. I was young when I had my first child, but I just remember, like, not being able to put it into words except for, like, oh my God, there you are, and, but postpartum depression, which this goes into a little bit, well, it goes into a lot, but it's interesting to me because we didn't, like, my oldest son is 30. So 30 years ago, nothing said about that. Nothing. I mean, there was just nothing. I remember my mom kind of saying, something to me about being, like, how are you? Or, do you find yourself being sad? And I was like, I never thought about that. Like, it wasn't something I really thought of. But as I was having children, now a lot of people experience it with their first child. But I found that as I was having them, and especially my sixth child, which I don't even know if that counts as postpartum, except for maybe just overwhelmed completely.
I think it could fit into that category, yes.
Because my oldest son was 16 at the time, and then I had every age in between. So it was like and sleep was just, it just didn't happen. So I don't even know if I'd consider it that, but I do remember a sense of overwhelmment. And, so I really feel for moms that sense that with their first child, because I did not experience it with the first child,
Yeah, and I didn't experience it with my first child either, or my second. But in fact, it was a strange case of life imitating art. After I had Clementine, I was writing the book while I was pregnant, and I delivered the baby and the book in the same week, which was really kind of funny. I felt like I'd been through a pregnancy with both the book and the baby, and I'd got them off, and that meant that I was going to have a few months before I got my notes back from my editor, and I knew that I just wanted to just soak up this time with my new baby. I knew it was going to be the last one that I was going to have. I'm not going to have 6. Fingers crossed.
And you're still young.
maybe not young enough, but so I didn't see it coming. I had a healthy baby. I had a good feeder, a good sleeper, and then it hit me like a ton of bricks, and I was having the hopeless crying, the really feeling of being overwhelmed. I was having terrible memory issues, and just being unable to navigate tasks that I could normally do. Right. And the funniest thing is that even with all of the research I'd just done for this book and the book that I had just written, or at least written the first draft for, I didn't recognize it, and that's what is so interesting about that, this postpartum mood disorders, which is all of the different illnesses that fit under the umbrella of women giving birth, and illnesses that can hit women within the 12 months after they've given birth. Right. They all look different. And for me, I wasn't having thoughts about harming my baby or harming myself. I had the odd thought about harming my husband, but that was nothing out of the ordinary. And it didn't look the way. And so I went to the doctor. I was diagnosed with postnatal depression. I was treated for it, and it made me even more determined to come back and just push this message and talk about it and be open about it, because we need to keep having this discussion. Even with the research I'd done, I didn't know. and I didn't recognise it. So we just need to keep talking about it, I think, and I'm so glad that that's become a theme of this book.
Absolutely. And, my daughter, who's going to be watching this, so she'll be hearing us talk as she does the social media. When she had her second child, she had two boys right up against each other. And I remember, she called me and she lives in Texas and I live in Pennsylvania, but she called me one day and she was like, I'm out driving around. I don't know what to do. And I'm like, what? And she's just like, I don't want to go back. And I'm like, you're going back though. Like, and she was like, of course I am. But my heart just broke because I don't think we talk, thank God she called me, and said that, that you can speak it out loud. I think,
yes,
because it's in your head and you're like, I don't want to do that, and she wasn't sleeping and she was nursing and it was hard and, it's all hard. And I told her, that with my youngest, I was like, I never talked about it, but it wasn't like I thought of weird thoughts except for fears would come up. Like, what if I forget him? What if I forget, like, I kept thinking I was going to, because I couldn't sleep and I wasn't, and then I think, oh my God, what if I forget him? What if I don't, like, where is he? And I would pass him off to the other kids. And then I'd be like, where is he? Who has him?
Yeah. I don't know how you did. I have 3 kids and I constantly lose them. I'm not surprised you had those fears with 6 children.
Yeah,
my goodness.
It was just this daily, like, I had abnormal fears, I would say, which is in your brain. I mean, and that's what happens when you're not sleeping and you're not getting your right. I'm sure I wasn't eating right. I'm sure I wasn't. And that's another thing, that I always tell my daughter-in-laws and my daughters, like, you have to eat. You got to, that's the last thing you think about is yourself because you're so consumed,
Exactly.
But and I love the way you talked about it. I mean, I thought it was brilliant, and
thank you. I think it's really important to just get people talking about it and, get people reaching out like your daughter did. I think it's when people are isolated and they're not talking about it that it turns into a problem, which it did in the book, and it does for people. So I hope that it gets people talking more.
Yes, absolutely. And I do have another Australian question to ask you, since I have you. One of my favorite Australian TV shows, because now on Netflix you can get like all kinds of like different country shows, right? And I wanted to see if it was popular in Australia because I love it. It's called Rake. Did you ever hear of it?
I don't know, Ray. Isn't that terrible? I haven't even heard of it. That doesn't mean that it's not popular. I'm not a huge... Well, I am. I like, all the big one, Game of Thrones and The Crown. Have you watched The Crown? Oh, my goodness.
The Crown.
But the Rake,
and
I feel terribly un-Australian now.
Yeah, it's still in production. Because I'm waiting for it, and I think it's in its like 5th or 6th season. It's it's a long-standing show, and I have people like I introduce people to this show around here, and I was telling them that I was going to be interviewing it. They're like, "You have to ask her about Rake." I'm like, "Okay, I will ask her about Rake."
Does it have Australian actors in it? Do you know?
Yeah, and the accent is so difficult. They're in, pretty sure they're in Sydney, but I keep the closed captioning on because I miss the jokes. They talk so fast. I miss it. Like, I can't, it's almost like, what did he say? What is it?
Do you understand me? Can you understand what I say?
Do. You talk very clear, but it's like, in a TV show, it's like they're talking back and forth very fast and it's like, it's hard to keep up. So, and all my friends do too. They're like, keep the closed captioning on so you don't miss any jokes.
I have to watch it now. I'm going to watch it tonight.
You have to. You know what? It's really funny. He's like, they don't have them here. He's not a barrister. He's a barrister.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and he's very funny. A lot of drugs and alcohol, just a lot of sex and drugs and alcohol involved, but it's on Netflix. I mean, it's not.
Really
It's not, it's on Netflix. It's not, can't be bad. Right?
Oh, I'm intrigued. I'm going to watch an episode tonight and I will get back to you.
Okay. Well, you can look it up. Yeah, it's still on Netflix, so you can look it up. And but anyway, so wait till I tell all my friends that you never heard.
I'm sorry that I don't have any Australian intel.
I know, and we picture the guy and I don't even remember his name, but we picture him being like the biggest thing in Australia. We're like, he has to be because he's good looking, and so we're like thinking all these Australian women have got to be. He's like got to be the Brad Pitt of Australia.
What's his name? I'm going to look him up.
Look it up. I really don't remember, but.
Don't remember his name. Okay.
I know, I'm trying to think. As soon as you say it, I'll be like, yeah, that's him.
Rake.
It's so funny, though.
Oh, gosh, yeah, it has got 5 seasons. Okay. Oh. A brilliant barrister battles his self-destructive tendencies.
Yeah, like I said.
Oh, this sounds good.
A lot of alcohol and drugs, but, you know, he's so hysterical. Unless maybe we just find it hysterical. I don't know. Maybe it's that sense of humor that we just like.
Well, I'll let you know. I'm looking at the cast of actors and I don't recognise anyone, but
really, not even him. What's his name?
Is it? Well, there's Richard Roxburgh, Matt Day, Russell Dykstra, Danielle. Well, he's the female.
You don't even know the
Jeff
women?
Moore. No.
Wow, that's crazy. It must be this like little cult. It has to have like a.
Is it Cleaver Green?
Cleaver.
Yeah, so Richard Roxburgh plays him, but I don't know him.
Well, you're going to like him, I think. So you got to let me know.
That's him?
Yes, that's him. Isn't he cute?
He's quite chiseled, isn't he?
Yeah.
This is what Australian men look like because we've got this really hot sun, and so it just ruins our skin. And
you think that's why he's... Oh, interesting.
But he looks good. He looks nice and weathered, you know. It's a nice...
Yeah, oh no, he and you'll like him, I think. You have to just let me know.
I'm excited.
That's awesome. Well, hold up your book one more time so everybody can see it. I'm so excited for this to be released. You have no idea. Like, everybody will be watching this on that day, and I'm just so excited that I got to read The Neck Alley. Thank you so much. Thank everybody in your world, in your publishers, and, you know, because it was such a thrill to be able to read it.
Well, thank you, and thank you so much for taking the time to interview me.
Yeah,
and introducing me to Rake.
I know. This has been so much fun, Sally. Thank you. I will have all of Sally's links listed under here so you can find her, and you will see her everywhere today. So you will not have trouble. Her Amazon link will be there so you can buy the book. And thank you. I'm so excited for you. So have a great day. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. You have your whole day ahead of you. I'm going to go eat dinner.
Good. Enjoy it. I'll go try to enjoy my day. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye. Oh my gosh, she was so much fun. I love her. Thank you, Sally. Thank you for the interview. It was so crazy good. Anyway, guys, I'm going to have all her links. Like I said, her book comes out today. Okay, I'm going to have all the links, her Amazon link, and then everywhere you can find her. Get this book. It is great. I can't wait to read all her other books too. So anyway, thank you, Sally, and thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed watching the video, hit like. And if you'd like to get the updates for all my videos, hit subscribe. Thank you, everyone.